Okay, so it seems like we're at a pretty comfortable stopping point in terms of allowing people to come in. Thank you to everybody who's dropping in their location in the chat. Looks like we've got people logging in from Louisiana, Malden, Waltham, Atlanta, Boston, Vienna, Concord, so many different places, which is always exciting to see. My name is Carolyn Chica, and I'm an Associate Director of Admission at Groton School, as well as the Director of Inclusion Outreach. This is my 5th school year at Groton, and I have the pleasure today of moderating a discussion about a major core value of the school, being inclusion. You should know that tonight's program is really about hearing the stories of our students. And so while we will answer questions about the program and statistics you might be curious about, I really am grateful that these students have lent their voice. But before we jump into it, I would love to pass the mic to my colleague, Ian, to introduce himself and share any words from his end.
I'm Ian Gracie. I'm the Dean of Admission at Groton. I've been here for 15 years. And one of the things I'm proudest about here at Groton is just the great change in the constitution of the student body here. We have such a mix of people from different backgrounds, and it's a way that we can really learn very thoroughly about different backgrounds, different parts of the world. It's a great source of joy for me as the Dean of Admission. Back to you, Chica.
Thank you. We do have questions for the panelists to do really a deep dive of who they are, but we're just going to start with a quick kind of round the horn of students introducing themselves and sharing their name, what grade they are in, and maybe where they're from. Let's start with that. And I'm going to start with Jacinta, and then Jacinta, you pass the mic to somebody else. Sound good?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jacinta. I'm a 6th form student, which is senior year at Groton. And I was born in New York City, but I currently live in Mexico, and I am Mexican, so I am from there as well. Edric, want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Edric. I'm also a senior here, so 6th form. I was born in Princeton, New Jersey, but and I grew up there, and I spent the last 7 years of my life in Beijing, China, and now I'm actually living in Groton, Mass, so not far away at all. Jack?
Hi everyone, my name is Jack. I'm also a senior, so I'm a 6th former, and I'm from Rochester, Minnesota. Holly, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Holly. I'm 2nd form, which is 8th grade, and I'm American, but I've lived in Asia all my life, specifically Taiwan. Kyra?
Kira. So hi everyone, I'm Kira. I'm currently in 5th form or 11th grade. I am from Ecuador, but I've lived in Saudi Arabia for the past 7 years. Jeremy, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Jeremy. I'm in 4th form. I'm originally from New York City, but I live in Fort Worth, Texas. And anyone who hasn't gone can go next.
So my name is Jacques, and I've lived in New York City for all of my life until coming here to Groton. And I'm in 3rd form, which is freshman year.
Wonderful. Sian, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Sion. I'm in 4th form right now, and I'm from Ethiopia.
Wonderful. So now that we kind of have a lay of the land of who we have in the room and where they're all from, in terms of logistics, what I'll share with participants is that you should know that we are vigilant of the chat, but if you have any questions throughout the way, know that we are also all checking out the Q&A box. And so you can use that Q&A box to ask us questions. We will type your answers to some of them, but we'll also choose some of those questions to hopefully address at the end. But the first question that I do want participants to share a little bit more about is to tell us a little bit more about your family background and or your school setting prior to coming to Groton. So kind of what was your life like before you arrived at the Circle?
I can kick us off. So I spent, as I said before, I spent a lot of my years in Beijing. So in Beijing, I went to like an international school, which is kind of like a school where a lot of international kids, because I came from Princeton, New Jersey, a lot of international kids from around the world kind of gather. The main language was English, but you also had, education in Spanish, Chinese, a variety of different languages. And for me, that was like really informative to understand the cultures from around the world, kind of just immerse myself in them. And for me, that was really nice.
For me, it's similar to Edric's. So in Saudi, I went to an international school as well. So the main language was English, but in middle school, you could learn French, Spanish, or Arabic. And just living in a different culture and then being present with so many different kids was, I grew to be very like open to change, I guess, and just adapting to getting to know different people. And it was, so coming here was and seeing all of these different cultures was not a big change for me. So
I
I
actually,
can, oh, you can
go
go.
for it, Sam.
So like my preschool was pretty international, but then the city itself that I lived in, which was Addis in Ethiopia, it wasn't really international. So like the people I met and like everyone I interacted with was Ethiopian and stuff. But and so coming into Groton was a change. It was different, but you also like get to know people like from other countries, which kind of it makes you relate to their culture in a weird way, because like you get to know that like you're not the only one that has like a that's coming into this new thing, which really helped.
Similar to Sian, I came from a really homogenous group of people. I grew up in rural Minnesota, and the people I grew up with, went to kindergarten with, were the same people I went all the way through 7th grade with. So coming to Groton was definitely a change to just show me more people, not even just in the country, but around the world. And I really, that's one of the parts I love about it, just coming from such a place of a small Midwestern town to Groton.
To go off what Jack was saying, before I came to Groton, I went to a small local school in Taipei, Taiwan. So coming to Groton with such a diverse community and people with such diverse backgrounds was a really welcome change for me, and I'm really liking it here.
So as I said, I'm from New York City. So when I went to public school in Brooklyn, New York, and I feel like I didn't have as many opportunities as kids like do at like private schools today. And I feel like Groton, coming to Groton from my old school, like was for one, a culture shock for sure, but it also like brought me to like a new group of people, as we mentioned, and like new cultures, and like expanded my my world kind of view. So I think that's like one of the benefits of Groton.
Growing in New York City for all of my life until coming here, I went to public schools and I didn't really have a change in any of the friends that I had until coming here. And I had the pleasure of meeting people from various cultures, places in my public school. And it was basically a repeat of meeting them when I came to Groton, which was really a big pleasure for me.
Similar to some of the other people here, I went to an international school in Mexico. But even so, the language was English, but even so, most of the people who attended that school were Mexican. So it definitely, since I was born in New York, that definitely helped me get to know my culture. And that really prepared me for when I came to Groton, because that way I was able to like bring the Mexican culture I'd learned about in Mexico into my experience at Groton, and kind of show my new friends at Groton like what my Mexican culture was like, and also learn about them from their own cultures. So that's like a way that my experience changed coming to Groton.
Wonderful. Thank you everyone for sharing. And given that context, the next question I'm going to ask is about adjustment periods, because a lot of people worry that they come from these very specific to them school environments, and they're unsure if they will be accepted in this new community. They're worried about adapting to the academic rigor. They're worried about being homesick. So could folks just speak to what your adjustment period was like when you were a student, arriving to the circle at Groton?
Sure, I'm happy to start. So like Holly, I started in second form. Holly's still in second form, but so this is my 5th year. And one of the most difficult things for me about adjusting to Groton were the academics. I came from a fairly shaky academic background, coming from rural Minnesota. And one of the things that shocked me, that I still to this day love, is just how every teacher, and not even just teacher, every faculty member and even the staff are just so welcoming to any problem or anything you want to talk about. And especially, I struggled with Latin in second form. And Mrs. Bannard, who is the Latin teacher for most second formers, was someone who was just so welcoming to me, both helping me in Latin and just adjusting to living away from home. And that's one of the things that I was really shocked by, is how welcoming all the teachers were to help you, to meet with you outside of class. And it really made my academic adjustment much smoother than I thought it was going to go.
I think Jack touched on the social side. I mean, I currently live in a 3rd form dorm with jocks, actually. And I think it just brings back memories of, being in 3rd form, being my first time on campus. I think this community is just, it's stunning how welcoming this community is. It really just takes, 2-3 weeks, and it's not just like a group of friends, you know the whole form. And that's something you really don't get at most schools, that tightly knit community where there's not really a strong clique. There's not like everyone knows everyone. You say hi to everyone passing by on a circle. It's just really tight and really welcoming.
I'd have to go for it.
No, you should go.
Thank you. I'd have to agree with Edric on this one. I think, at least like what I noticed when I first came here, is not only does everybody kind of want to get to know each other and say hi to everybody, a lot of people are very open to different cultures and experiences. At least like that was something that I was really looking forward to coming to Groton, like getting to know all these different people from different places. And like even now, a lot of these people, they've lived in multiple places. Like for example, I lived in New York and then Mexico. Some of my peers also had that same experience where they call multiple places home. So like seeing how that has changed and affected them, and comparing that to how that has changed and affected me, and being able to share in this, and kind of also having that commonality of also calling Groton our home, has made us really tight knit, and really get to know each other throughout the 4 years I've been at Groton.
So last year was my first year at Groton, and actually during the fall term, I was remote. So, at first, all I had to adjust to were the academics. And I was a bit on a different schedule because I'd go to school during the afternoon, and then I'd usually try and get my homework done like during the night and then sleep until noon. And I was on a completely different schedule. And then coming here for winter term and then spring, I had to adjust to reorganizing myself academically, and then, finding myself, like my friends or getting to know people. And then also with the extracurriculars. So it was a little rough. But I think that definitely the people were very open to helping me out, and just like my advisor and my teachers, they were very understanding, and they met with me when I needed it, and walked me through, and sometimes they even helped me like figure out how to time manage myself better. So that definitely helped winter term be easier, or like the adjustment to it went smoother because of that. So for sure, it takes a good minute, but you're not going to be alone during that period. So yeah.
As Jack said, I'm in second form, which is 8th grade. So I just arrived here a month or so ago. So I'm still adjusting, but I can assure anyone out there who's worrying, everyone here is supportive of you and they have your back in everything you do.
And to like add on to that, I think an important part of it, which a lot of people have already kind of mentioned, is that knowing that like everyone else is kind of going through the same process as you are, and like knowing that your friends and just the people around you, and we also have like meetings for like different groups and stuff, and like the weekend events, so you like get to talk to people, and it's not as hard as it would have been if like you couldn't talk to people about it.
And going off Sion, I came in second form, and I'm in 10th grade now, so I came in 8th grade. And I just think that along with such like the relationships that you make in your form and those friendships that you make that last so long, there's also even more ways to like make friendships with people who are not in your form. Like there's clubs, there's groups, there's people, they're like leadership, especially. Like when I was in second form, I really looked up to the third formers who were there in Brooke's house with me. And I feel like that really took me through second form, and even taking me through fourth form this year, I still look up to them.
And Jeremy, you were a second form officer too, right?
Yeah, I was.
Even in your first years, taking on some leadership. Sorry, I'm a teacher. I can't help it. I don't know if anybody else wants to respond to that prompt before we move on. Go for it.
I haven't gone yet. So coming here, it was a little sad to leave my family and live in a different place, but I adjusted to Groton shockingly quickly because everyone was just so supportive of me, like everyone from the friends in my form to students in other forms to the teachers to the other faculty to staff. Everyone was supportive of me. It was almost like a secondary family. And yeah, that kind of family can really help you through the academic rigor of the school. So if you're worried about adjusting to the academics here, do not worry. You have a lot of help around you that you can always get.
Did anybody else go that I missed? Or did anybody else need to go? Okay. My next question is around programming. So at Groton School, we do have a diversity and inclusion committee that was established in 2013. And that committee itself is made up of both faculty members of all different disciplines, as well as students. And we have so many different arms of diversity and inclusion programming at our school. But I'm wondering if the sixth formers could speak more to either their involvement in the D&I committee and also some of the community discussions that we've been having in the dorm, especially around issues relating to social justice and some of the issues of bigotry that occurred on the national scale in 2020.
Hi, so I can start with that. I'm actually one of the members on the diversity and inclusion board. It's a huge group. We have like a smaller leadership group, but it's open to all of the juniors and seniors so that they can take on a leadership role in making sure that the school has an inclusive environment. So one of the things that we've really focused on, especially these last 2 years, are these things called community gatherings, which is basically, they happen like once a month. And you'll do them with usually your dorm group or in a boys dorm group. So it's usually a big group of like 30 to 50-ish people. And they'll all take on different topics, but the general theme of them is to make sure that different people's stories are being heard, and to like give a space for people to share their own stories, struggles, and how and give feedback also like on Groton's environment and talk about different issues. So I actually did see one of the questions, I think it was Zoe that asked it about Black at Groton. Last year, we actually had a community gathering that was on the Instagram, Black at Groton. The Instagram is relatively new. It was started 2 summers ago. And so last year we had a community gathering on it to make sure that people were aware of the Instagram, both that they could use it to share their voices, and also so that the rest of the community can talk about it and see how, as a community, we can make the environment more inclusive and just a better environment for people at our school by taking into account these voices, like what we as individuals can each do to make that environment better, and how we can get the administration to also do that as well, just because the administration is very responsive when a student brings up an issue.
And then just to add a little bit more about what Jacinta said. So at the dorm that I prefect in and the dorm that Jacinta prefects in, we're actually paired up for the community gatherings. We've had 2 so far. And just to give you an idea, the first one was talking about, it was a listening activity, but it was also, it was a more tell your own story type of thing. We paired up a student in my dorm with a student in Jacinta's dorm. And we gave each 8 minutes to tell their story, tell them what anything the other person wants. And then for this most recent community gathering, we focused on our name and what it means to us. And as Jacinta said, we have these about once a month. And it is also a great leadership training opportunity, you could say, where Jacinta, as one of the D&I prefects, helps basically put it together and lead it with our dorms.
Yeah, I don't know how much I have to add. Jack and Jacinta really covered that really well. The only thing I'd really just say is, like, I know it's jarring, the idea that, 50 people together and you're sharing things that are personal to you, like a personal story, or what your name means to you, or your certain views on social issues and stuff like that. But that's, again, it's tying back to how welcoming and accepting Groton's community is. We don't really mind if anyone's opinion is different. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing, you feel like that's just blatantly incorrect. You're like, during community gatherings, people respect each other. It's a safe space for you to really feel comfortable talking about yourself and how you feel. That's something, the community just does.
I think also, yeah, Edric summed it up really well. Just to add on, this isn't necessarily the community gathering, but if you want to do something at Groton, in my experience, you really easily can. So for one example, as I mentioned, I'm from Mexico, and there's a decently large Latino community at Groton, just because a lot of people, even if they weren't born in Latin America, they have family who are there. So we were around probably I'd say 20-ish to 30 students at this dinner. So during Latin Heritage Month, a couple of friends and I who are Latino, we actually organized a dinner and hosted it for Latino students, and we were able to order food and had some music, and it was just a great time to get to know this smaller community within Groton. And Miss Chica actually helped us put it together, but it was pretty much like a student initiative. My friends and I wanted to do it. We'd seen another student do it a couple years, not last year because of COVID, but a couple years ago. And so if you as a student feel that something's missing at Groton, you can take the initiative and create it, which I really like.
All right. Let's keep moving along. So in admissions, I think we get asked a lot of questions around statistics, and we report a lot of statistics too on our website. So we talk about percentage of students of color, number of states represented, and countries represented. On our website, we also outline some of the demographics around our board of trustees, and also who assumes different leadership positions on campus. But beyond some of those numbers, I'm curious to know from your perspectives, what does it feel to be a part of a diverse community like Groton? What is it actually like to live alongside all of these different students and teachers?
I think it's amazing. Again, coming from just such a homogenous group of people in the Midwest, where everyone thought the same thing and everyone talked about the same thing, and there was very little difference between us. It's great coming to Groton, having basically not a large proportion of the United States and even parts of the world just in one place, all living, learning, gathering together. And even just from the conversations I've had in my dorm, to talking to faculty members, to even just having casual conversations with some of the teachers who happen to coach my sport. I think it's just great to be able to talk to people who come from so many different backgrounds and who have so many different views, not just on academics or social life, but just the entire world. And it's things that I would have never understood or been exposed to if I just stayed in Minnesota.
Sorry,
Oh,
you can go first.
that's all you. Don't worry about it.
Okay, I agree with Jack. So because I came from a local school where I was mostly surrounded by fellow Taiwanese kids, coming to Groton was a great thing for me because I finally got to make friends and interact and like get to be involved in a diverse community of people with different beliefs and backgrounds. And that made it really sort of give me a sense of belonging, that anyone can come to Groton and truly belong here.
Yeah, just adding on to that and kind of tying in this to like Wayne's question in the chat, Groton's diverse in the sense that we have people that come from all around the world, but we also have day students on campus. People that kind of live really close to Groton. I was a day student actually for 2 years at Groton. So to answer your question, like how do day students get involved? You get here at like 7 in the morning, you leave here 10:30, 11 at night. So you're here the whole time. The only thing you're really missing is brushing your teeth and going to bed here. Everything else you're doing. There's no distinguishing day students from folks in the dorm. You live actually in the dorm. You have you pick a few friends you're really close with, you affiliate with them, and you put yourself in their room and you just spend time in their room. So really there's no really segregation. Everyone's kind of just together. And that's the same thing, day students as well as people from all over the world. Everyone's together here.
About meeting having Groton as like a diverse community and like how it feels like. I like really love history, and so whatever I can relate to it, I will. And so this kind of goes with it. Like you meet people from all over the world, and it just makes you understand the cultures more. Like you start picking up on very random things that if you were like taught a certain language, or like if you were like taught it like just in class or something, you wouldn't quite understand. Like I had this a friend that was American but had like a Ukrainian parents, and so she'd listen to these Russian songs and stuff, and so I'd listen to her I'd listen to it with her and stuff, and then I'd pick up on I'd pick up on how they were. Like there was a specific style that they had that I just really love, and it's just fun to get to know like a deeper side of like one culture without actually like going all over there and just having the people express it to you and stuff.
Yeah, adding on to Sion, I have a fellow form mate in my dorm who is from Cairo, Egypt, and he is just the funniest guy I've met in my life. And he just has hidden talents that you wouldn't expect. He's an amazing basketball player. He's just funny and he's just always happy. And then I have a prefect who is French, and recently he's actually gone my dorm and I on French rap. So he's actually love that. You like kind of expand your like worldview, going back to what Sion said.
Yeah, just adding on to Sion and Jeremy, like I was taking an international relations course last year, and the people in my class were from all over the world. So at one point we were talking about Hong Kong, and one of the students was from Hong Kong, so they could like chip in sometimes and add their own experience. So like even both like inside and outside of the classroom, people will like bring their own experience, and that usually just enriches the conversation with like perspectives that a teacher might not even be able to give us. So that's been really just a great part of the Groton experience.
Okay, I'm going to integrate some questions from the audience with some of the questions that we considered earlier. And this question comes from Sam, and it's, can you talk more about the LGBTQ support and how that has evolved during your time at Groton? So wondering if somebody could maybe speak to GSA or Super Secret Gay Club, just either like from knowing about the programs maybe.
So, there's like two of the clubs Miss Chica mentioned. One is ISSGC, which is super secret. So no one actually knows who the members are. You only know like who the heads are, which two of my close friends are. So I'm not coming to it from experience, but just from hearing them talk about it. So basically, it's a club. They'll meet. And really nobody knows who's part of it. So that gives a space for people who might not be ready to come out and share their identity completely to still have a place where they can feel comfortable sharing their identity to some people. And I've heard a lot of like positive feedback around that, just because nobody knows where the meetings take place except those participating. Nobody knows who's in it. So what I've heard is that people feel like really safe being a part of it. And the other one is just a club that works as an alliance. Anyone can go, and they'll hold meetings on different issues, on just trying to share more about the different experiences of being part of the LGBTQ A+ community. So that's a great way to learn about that community and how you can help and how you can be an activist in the world regarding that. And that's open to like completely anyone. So anyone can join. And that's just coming from my experience. I don't know if anyone else can add on.
Yeah, I'll speak to two experiences that I've had. The GSA held and I think annually they hold a day of silence in honor of people who don't yet feel comfortable coming out. And I think that my second year here, I went to the moment in which they broke their silence at the end of the day. And that was just a really powerful and fun moment that we shared on the circle. And my first year here, we brought a speaker to campus for MLK Day, and he was the first openly gay player in the NFL. And he just gave a really good talk that I think has set a really positive tone for all of our time here shared on the circle. So those are just two of my personal anecdotes. Any other thoughts before I move on?
I just say that we've really come a long way in the last 7 or 8 years. I've been here 15 years. In my first 7 years, I don't think anyone even came out at Groton publicly. And that's really changed, which is very healthy.
Thank you, Ian. Okay, my next question, and it kind of relates to some of the things that all of you are already referencing, and it's to kind of just share maybe like a story or an example of a time when you really felt that sense of inclusion or belonging. We always talk about Groton School being a family, but I think from the outside looking in, it could be hard to like really understand. So can you think of that moment where you're like, okay, like, yeah, this is my family, or like, yeah, I belong here?
I can kick us off. Honestly, for me, it was movement day, third term year. The first time I stepped up on campus. This kind of ties into Yuka's question a little bit about like roommates. My roommate was a second former who's already here for a year, but that's not the case with everyone. It really just depends. So I stepped on campus and I had someone who went to preseason who's also third former, who like we were complete strangers, never met each other. Gia is actually his name. He came over and like helped me carry my stuff, put it in my room. And then Seabass took me out to lunch with his second form friends. And like that's kind of when I knew like there's so much support I Groton. Seabass and Gia are now like two of my closest friends. Just the moment I stepped on campus, people start treating you as like family right away. No one like leaves you alone. No one leaves you as a stranger.
Absolutely. Sorry, Holly. I agree with Edric, but I think I also had a great moment in second form around the winter time. I wasn't really that open in second form. I was still really worried about what people were going to think of me, how I was the only kid from Minnesota, all of that. But I think I once I opened up and I was able to just embrace the dorm. I think one of the defining moments I still can remember like it was yesterday was it was in the second form dorms. You're all the boys are in one dorm and all the girls are in another dorm. So you live with all of your male classmates, or I did. And what we did on one Saturday night after the first snow is we all went outside and had a dorm snowball fight. And when we came back inside, my dorm had brought us hot chocolate and we just sat and talked for a couple hours. And I think that's just something that you would normally do with your family back at home. That's what I did back in Minnesota. We would go out, have a snowball fight, come home. And I think it's just something like that that you would normally do with your family, but you're doing in a dorm that really makes it click in your head that these are the people that I want to spend my time with. These are who I'm considering my new family. And from now on, or from then on, I've just loved every aspect, and I felt just like a part of a big family here at Groton.
For me, like, sorry, did I? Okay. For me, it was during winter term. So my roommate was also new, and we were invited to go on a walk with a couple other kids in our form. And so this is in fourth form or ninth grade. No, 10th grade, my bad. And we walked the triangle, which is kind of it's a very nice route. Either way, during the walk, we were just talking and getting to know each other. And at one point, like, because it was snowing, so snowballs got involved. So that was like a really good day. I just felt kind of like part of the group. And then when we went sledding, it was also the second time I remember, like, for sure, like, these are great people, and I think I found my group. So people, like Jack said, they don't really hesitate to take you in. It's very kind of open most of the time. So yeah.
Also, like every night there's check-in for all of the dorms. And at check-in, sometimes there are feeds, which is the dorm head of the night would bring food and everyone sort of nibbles on it. And we just discuss our days. And it's a really bonding experience because everyone just talks about how their day went, a funny thing that happened. Or sometimes we also have this new tradition where you ask a question like, if you were a plant, what type of plant were you? What's your personality? And we bond over stuff like that.
I think just one small thing that, like, this wasn't the first time I noticed it was a family, but definitely like emphasized it like yesterday. I had like an assignment I had to turn into a teacher that I was really nervous about because I'd been working on it for a while. So I just needed to press that submit button, and my friends were kind of in my room because we were all hanging out. And I didn't even realize it until afterwards, but they all had things to get to. Like, I think that some of them had practices and they were like running like 5 minutes late, but they really just like crowded around me until like I got that assignment in. They like looked over it with me just to like make sure I was happy about it. And I got that into my teacher, and it felt just great afterwards. And then they all ran off, and I was like, I didn't even realize they had to get to other places, but it just really, like, that show of support to just like let someone else know you're here for them is something that is always present at Groton. And it's such a great feeling.
And I guess my memory is from this summer that I did Groton's Grace program, which is for rising ninth graders to like prepare you for upper school. And usually it's about 40 or 30 people, and your form is around 80 or 70. So it's like a smaller group of people, and it's people that I like wasn't necessarily great friends with before, like that close. And I feel like the summer program like brings you much closer to them, and you like make new friendships, and you're just close with people in your form. And I feel like that is like when I realized that like Groton is more than a family.
For me, it's mostly like just short moments that I like think about, and then I'm like, wow, like that's very cool that we have it here. And like it relates a lot to our relationship with the teachers and stuff, because like I've never lived with teachers like on campus because I didn't go to boarding school. And so at first it was weird to consider that, like, because pre-COVID, like everyone was just at the dining hall, and then you'd see like one of their kids like running around. I remember like my theater kids, my theater teachers' kids were very energetic and stuff. And so like you get to see them like interact with their family and stuff. And like even today, I was just walking around the circle, and I was going back from lunch, and Mr. Belsky was like, "Oh, what's for lunch?" And I just casually like told him what it was, and like we had a small conversation. And so just knowing that like they live there too, and like they go through like similar things that you do, really helps like make you feel included.
I'll share one, or I'll share two. My first year here, there was a student who was also new, and it was like my first week here, and he was just like, "Hello, Miss Chica," and I was so taken aback that somebody knew my name, and so that was kind of like the first moment where I realized that people really like knew me. And then the second moment was in my third year here. The chaplain at the time had asked me 3 times to give a chapel talk, which is a tradition at Groton School, and I had said no, and then like, okay, fine, if you really need one. And so I had like put a lot of thought towards my chapel talk. I wrote it and I rewrote it and I shared it with some trusted people. But then I felt finally good enough to give it. And I thought a lot about what it would mean for me to like go up there and give that talk. But a few seconds before I had to go up there, I was like, oh my God, I wrote about really personal stuff. Like, what am I thinking? But you know, no time to like go back on that. And so I went up and I gave my chapel talk, and I was like, okay, thank God it was done. But at Groton, there is this tradition where people will line up to give you a hug or just to share nice words about their impression of your chapel talk. And I just had not prepared for that part of the equation. And I was so overwhelmed by the number of people that wanted to like wish me congratulations, or just to say like, I really liked that talk. Because my family were not expressive in that way. And so I was just like overwhelmed, and I wanted to hide. And so I hid in the art center for like an hour. And I came back to my desk, and people had left me like handwritten notes. People had emailed me, people I'd never spoken to before. And so I will literally never forget that moment. And I feel so connected to everybody since then in particular. Ian, do you want to share one? You're muted.
Well, that chapel talk experience is really interesting, because you want to share something about yourself that will be of interest to the community. And I can remember once, I think my oldest child was graduating from school that year, but this was like September. And I started reading a part of Charlotte's Web by E.B. White about the little spiders when they're floating away. And I actually choked up. But it's okay to do that at a school like Groton, because we really are, we feel like a family.
Beautiful. So I'm going to ask the last question, and this kind of is the last call for anybody who wants to ask us a question in the Q&A box. So this question is for everybody, and it's, what advice would you give applicants that still worry, despite what we've shared, that Groton may not be inclusive of their many identities? So advice. And we could also maybe even speak to the parents in the room too, because maybe the child's okay, but maybe a parent is worried, rightfully so.
What I thought was more of for the student, because like what I personally had like struggles with was like believing that I do like belong, because at first you just think that, oh, everyone has their own thing, everyone has their own life, so like they wouldn't want me to like interject or something. But I'd say like knowing that like once you've arrived, like once you're on campus, like you are there, so like you do belong. And so just going with that and expressing who you are and like just being who you are is what's really gonna like get you through it. Cause like first week or so of second form, which is when I came, like I was kind of more shelled. And then second week, I just realized that everyone was going through the same things. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna be myself. And that's when I started to really make friends and like understand how Groton really works. And so just believe in yourself and like go with it.
For me, it's I guess the advice I can give to the parents, I guess, is my mom lives in Fort Worth, Texas, so she is halfway across the country. And a while ago, a few months ago, actually, in the spring term, I hurt my hip during a like athletic injury. And you just have amazing people here at Groton, advisors like Mr. Gracie, who's my advisor, and who just like help you and take you through it, even though like, and like act more of like as your parents, and like amazing health center nurses who just take care of you, even though your parents are not there to like check up on you and keep you healthy. And you even have understanding teachers who like as I was like falling behind on my work, my teachers were like there to like give me extensions and like help me through it. So I just feel like there's not, parents shouldn't be that worried sending their kids to boarding schools.
And let me give you an example of that before we go to Kira. Jeremy, I talked to your mother yesterday and she really wants you to call home. So do it, okay?
I will.
Okay. Kira, did you have something to add?
I was just going to say that this is more for the student. Don't be afraid to reach out, because like Jacinta said toward the beginning, like there are definitely people who you will be able to relate to. And so like, for example, like I'm from Ecuador, so I speak Spanish, and like we have a relatively small community, but like once we kind of got together and everything, we just were able to form, we have like a little group now, and it's like we know who each other is. We also have like it's an international, like for all the international students, it's a group, it's called ICAP, so like you get to know each other in there too. But so definitely don't be afraid to reach out, because you're not alone. And we're all here to like, we want to get to know you, want to know who you are. And so it's just it's easier said than done for sure, but like once you do it, I don't think you'd regret it.
I can add one more thing to talk to the parents. I think my mom is just sitting north of Jeremy's mom in Minnesota, and she was always worried in second form that the faculty members, the people just wouldn't be able to help me in anything. And I think something that really calmed my mom's nerves is that all the faculty members here, they're not just your teachers, they're not just your coaches, they're real people who are living real lives with you, and you see them all the time. And they begin to act like your pseudo parents sometimes. I go up and I talk to some faculty members just like I would my parent. And I think that's something that I can talk to them about anything, and would be able to help me with anything. I've gone to my Spanish teacher about a problem in the dorm. I've talked to my advisor, who is a chemistry teacher, about an English paper. And I've talked to my English teacher about a social problem I was having. And I think just the people you interact here at Groton with aren't just teachers, but they're real people who are willing to help your child with anything they run into. And that's what really had me felt like I was included on campus, is just everyone here, faculty, staff, teachers, coaches, everyone just is ready to help your kid with anything that they could possibly need.
Yeah, I agree. One final piece of advice would be to just make sure you're staying connected to your culture, and like calling home. Like we have so much technology available to us. One thing that's really helped me is making sure I call my parents, or like it's different for everybody. Definitely in third form, Jeremy, I struggled with that because I'd be having so much fun at Groton that I forget to sometimes. But whenever you miss home, like make sure you're reaching out to your, to your parents or to the people at Groton, kind of like Kira said, reach out and stay connected just because we have so many opportunities available to us.
Well, I think you guys have done a really nice job tonight, don't you, Ms. Chica?
Yes, I feel all of the warm and fuzzies right here. I do have one parting piece of advice as well, and it's around our upcoming webinars. We do have a webinar about advice for application writing as well as an interview workshop. Those are both next Tuesday. And we also have one on affording Groton. Another nice thing to highlight here is that the recordings of past webinars are also up here. And so if you missed any but are curious about them, you can access them there. So that's kind of it on my end. Anybody else have any final words, Ian?
I don't. It's just great to have this webinar series. We have our students speaking to you because we really believe in them. You're going to get the real deal from them. And we saw that tonight. So you saw an advisee scold or an advisor scold an advisee. So you got to see something of the authentic relationships we have here. Sorry to put you on the spot, Jeremy.
And I'd love to also give major props to Holly from second form. We love you and you did great.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to call it a night. Thank you so much for joining us and we look forward to connecting with you soon. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Sure. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.